This is Steve Cochran, and before we get to the Deep Six, I mentioned the other day I've got some news coming up about what I'm doing, a brand new project. And unless things change, on Wednesday's episode, the June 8th episode of Live from My Office, we will make that announcement. Now, why am I hedging my bets a little bit? Well, there's still a couple of balls in the air, and I don't juggle. So be listening on Wednesday, and hopefully it's not just a double tease. I'm fairly confident we will have that announcement for you on Wednesday of whatever it is I'm doing next. And frankly, we've been talking about this long enough, I've forgotten. I don't even know what the secret is at this point. All right, so stand by because we got a special phone call coming up from a couple of big-name celebrities and the Deep Six on this episode. Oh, I'm glad you're here. This is all part of the Live from My Office family. Thank you to our charter sponsor. That's right, he's our charter sponsor and our title sponsor, David Hochberg and Team Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. You know, I was talking to David Hochberg about these times in which we live, where the Fed continues to raise rates. That's not expected to change. It puts a real squeeze on mortgages and refis because those interest rates, they keep going up. So Team Hochberg, David Hochberg, what are you telling people?
I'm telling everybody right now, if you need a mortgage, your best play would be to take out an adjustable rate mortgage, also known as ARMs. You'll start reading stories and hearing horrific stories about how dangerous ARMs are, which is a ridiculous statement because ARMs are perfect for short-term plays. If you know that your son or daughter are going to be graduating high school and you're going to be putting a for sale sign up in 5 years and you want to pay off debt, and you want to pay off some credit card debt that you've accumulated because of COVID and because of the $5-6 a gallon gas, adjustable rate mortgage is a perfect product.
It's 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. He'll guide you through these difficult times and make sure you're saving the most money possible. And again, waiting is not your friend because the Fed has their mission, and that mission may not match with yours. 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. Thank you, Team Hochberg, our title sponsor on Live from My Office.
The Deep Six. 6 stories from your world in 30 minutes or less. Hosted by Patty Steele and Steve Cochran. The Deep Six is on.
This is the Deep Six. It's 2 friends, 6 stories, and about Patty Steele, what would you say?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to give us 35 minutes because I got other stuff to do today.
And you've been very busy. By the way, my name's Steve Cochran. I'm in Chicago. Patty's in New York. I want to take a moment to congratulate you on a very cool honor that we haven't had time to talk about. You were the recipient of a Gracie Award for the podcast that we did on addiction and recovery.
That's right. That's right. The Gracies are by the Alliance for Women in Media. So they did not honor you because last I checked, you're not a woman. But
foiled again.
You were a beautiful part of that podcast. That's for sure. And I'm very grateful, not only for the honor, but for the fact that all 3 of my beautiful children came with me. They wanted to be there, including my wonderful son, Jake, whose story we told in that podcast.
It is a podcast we would encourage you to go back and listen to. In the show notes here, we will post the link to the 2 parts of that podcast that we did with my brother Mickey, with Jake, and then Jake as well, talking about, where things go from there. But the bottom line is the same. You don't have to live like that. And Mickey and Jake both chose to survive, and God bless them.
Yeah, I can't even tell you how many messages I've gotten from listeners, both of the podcast and here in New York, because I've talked about it a lot on the radio, just saying that what they loved was that it's a story of light at the end of the tunnel. And that is what is most essential about both Mickey's and Jake's stories, is that they found a way forward to celebrate their life and to live a really beautiful life. And how grateful are we as their loved ones, That's
exactly right.
Yeah.
So, all right, are you ready to begin?
Yeah, let's dive in, baby.
My Gracie Award-winning friend. Very proud of you. It's a very cool thing.
Thank you, sweetheart.
So.
The Deep Six Story number one.
This is entertainment time. We always talk about entertainment at the top of the show. The Queen is in the news because of the 70th anniversary, the Jubilee that's gone on in London and the UK.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it really started on the anniversary of her ascending the throne, which was back in February of 70 years ago in 1952.
Right. And when you think about it, she's done the same job for 70 years.
Yes.
I don't know if she got a gold watch. I don't know if they even had cake, in the break room.
They got drinks, because if you know her, she's nothing she likes better than a cocktail.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a show on the BBC. I believe it's called The One Show.
Okay.
And it is hosted by a woman. I don't know her work, but I'm sure she's terrific. Emma Willis.
Okay.
And she told the story. Tom Hanks was her guest. She told the story of Tom Hanks at a dinner with the Queen 10 years ago or so. And as Tom Hanks is sitting next to the Queen, he asked the Queen what her choice of cocktail is. Now, I would have gone with Mad Dog 2020, maybe Boone's Farm Strawberry Hill.
See, I would have thought gin and tonic. That's quintessentially British. What was it?
A martini.
A martini. Okay, is it a martini with a twist, or a martini with like a dirty martini with olives, or
I don't know, but I defer to you.
Probably
on this.
Any one of those for her.
Is a martini a typical older female person drink?
Actually, they're very popular with a lot of people now. You don't have to be older to enjoy them. They're red hot, and they come, people do they'll do raspberry martinis, and a big one in the past year has been this espresso martini, which they're very good. Personally, I just like the regular, not an old fashioned, but the old fashioned martini, which is with an olive and a little bit of vermouth.
I would wonder, in 2012, I believe, was when the London Olympics happened, right? So this dinner with Tom Hanks was 2011.
Right.
So in 2012, she did that famous clip where she pretends to helicopter with James Bond and parachute into Buckingham Palace with the corgis. Now, James Bond, of course, is the martini, right? Shaken, not stirred.
Sure,
so was she inspired by Bond? I like to think that, I like to think she had a fling back in the day with one of the Bonds.
Or do you think maybe they paid her to say that in order to promote the Bond movie?
Is there any sort of licensing arrangement, Ed? If you look closely at the Queen and her crown, does it say something on there about a particular
Bombay
brand?
Sapphire. That's gin. Sorry.
No, but you're going to get her on gin and tonic. You're going to do it.
Yeah.
All right. So continuing with entertainment, let me move over here for a second. Have you seen the new Rebel Wilson? She looks fantastic.
Oh boy, that chick has really gone all out to get herself into the kind of shape she wants to be in.
Yep.
And, it's interesting because a lot of people wonder, she kind of made her mark on the entertainment world based on her size, because she was a big girl. And but she looks so beautiful, and she seems so happy that you can't not love her for it, because it makes her happy, right?
And isn't it something that in Hollywood, getting healthy is a career risk? But you're exactly right.
Yeah, no, I know.
So we'll see what happens. But there's a movie on Netflix, which I'm sure many of you have seen. It's called Senior Year. And
that's her movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's her movie, and she's been out promoting it. But it's interesting to note that it got a 53% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. That's not great.
No, that's not great. It's not horrible, but it's not great.
Yeah, it's not horrible. It's not exactly right, because
it's like,
the quote that comes up,
I'm going to yawn.
Yeah, the quote that comes up again and again is, I didn't hate it.
Yeah.
So here's my question to you. Has streaming changed us to the point of you can't walk out of a movie anymore, but you can shut it off? Because I can think of one movie in my entire life that I walked out of.
Really?
One movie. It was Roseanne Barr and Meryl Streep in She-Devil. And it was such a terrible, terrible movie that I actually said,
I don't know the movie, but that's very funny to me.
It's an awful movie. It's really a terrible movie. And I walked out of it. I can't think of another movie where that would be the case. But if you go to a movie theater, and certainly if Top Gun is indicative, and we have a Top Gun story coming up, if Top Gun is indicative, if you take the time to get a sitter, if you have kids, or if you're just, on a date, or if you go to a movie theater, you're much less likely to walk out. You've already invested $75 in the popcorn.
Right.
So you're less
and you got
likely
this
to leave.
giant bucket. You got to finish it at least before you walk out, right?
So I guess at home, you can walk out of your own living room, right?
Right, exactly. Oh, that's funny. There's only one movie that I can think of that I actually wanted to walk out of. And that was, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. I think that it was a Ben Stiller movie, and it was the one where he plays like this guy who's a on the 47th Street in Manhattan.
Okay.
He sells jewelry.
I don't know what that is.
Do you know that it was they nominated it for like Academy Awards, but I thought it was absolutely terrible.
I'm thinking of Adam Sandler in the Jewelers movie.
Oh, maybe it was Adam Sandler.
Yeah, and Adam Sandler was snubbed by the Academy, but he got a bunch of awards in other places. But a very violent movie.
Hated that movie. There was nothing likable about him. I'm sorry. It's funny. I mix up Ben Stiller and Adam Sandler. I hated that movie. And it's funny because I was, when the lights came on, I saw to my right, the former Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, who I know because he lives here in town, and he's just a wonderful, he was on the Obama cabinet, just an incredibly wonderful person. And we looked at each other and went, wow, this was not what we hoped it would be.
Wow. Okay. So it's 2019. The movie's called Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. That's it. And so you see, and I don't even remember who the star was. I just remember I really wanted to walk out. I didn't, because I was there with a group of people. So I didn't do it. Didn't like that movie. Rebel Wilson, I like her enough that I might put up with her, especially if I'm on my couch having, a glass of wine and
Sure.
the kind of stuff I can pull out of my kitchen rather than just, Raisinets. So.
Well, I mean, to support the film industry, and we have many friends who are in the industry, maybe we should do something in these tough economic times where we have what amounts to a swear jar, but whatever we eat during the film, we overcharge ourselves for it and put the money in the jar.
Yeah, and donate it to Hollywood because they need the money, right?
You know who needs the money? Tom Cruise. He's going
God.
broke.
He needs money more than anybody on earth.
Top Gun Maverick, a huge hit. I'm sure many of you have seen it. But a really unfortunate phrase popped up. You told me about this before we began recording this podcast. It's about men crying. And what's the phrase?
Yeah, it's called man tears. And they're telling you that, you know what, it's okay if you watch this. And what's funny is I talked to a bunch of guys who'd seen the movie at work, and, oh God, it's a great movie. You got to see it. Everybody loves the movie. And then I brought up the man tears. Every single one of them admitted to crying while watching this movie.
Listen, I am the easiest cry in the world. I am beyond sensitive. You put a kid in a tough situation for me, it's over for me.
Yeah.
In a love story, I'm a sucker for a love story. So I'll cry.
You're not crying over fighter planes going at each other.
Yeah, I just don't know that I'd cry during a Tom Cruise fighter plane movie.
Well, it is a lot of guys are. And it was really funny to me because I thought about crying in movies. When I was flying out to LA, I decided, the one thing, and here I live in New York, but I've never seen Dear Evan Hansen on Broadway, which is like this massive, massive hit.
Right.
And so I thought, here's the movie. It's got the same star, Ben Platt, from the Broadway, who originated on Broadway. In fact, his father actually produced that movie, and the Broadway show. So I thought, okay, I'm going to watch this. What the heck? I like the music. I'm watching it and I start to cry. Then I start to really cry. Then I'm shuddering, sobbing. I'm
the heaving shoulders, the whole thing.
The heaving. I mean,
right.
And shaking. And of course, because I'm a mom, I always get the middle seat when we fly. We're in coach, of course. And so I have my husband's on the aisle seat and my two kids are across the aisle in the middle kind of section. And I have this young woman sitting next to me by the window who I don't know. So the plane lands, the movie's over, and I'm trying to wipe the mascara off my eyes. And she says, "Are you by any chance in a business that's involved in the arts?" I was like, I looked at her and I'm like,
Oh, because she saw you crying, so she knew you were
yeah.
sensitive.
And so she said, because I saw how emotional you got. And she said, and I so get that. She said, I just graduated from NYU and I am an actress and a writer. And she said, I saw Evan Hansen on Broadway twice. I haven't seen the movie. And she said, I sobbed too. And so I was laughing about that. And I talked about it on the radio here in New York. And then somebody brought up the fact that it's a known thing that you cry more easily on airplanes than you do on the ground.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So look it up, Google it. There's like a big Huffington Post article on it. And they say part of it has to do with the fact that when we travel, we're like really stressed out and we're racing through security and we're dragging. And then we sit down and we turn this on and then we see something that is emotionally touching and we just, and so we're draining we're also vulnerable when we're on an airplane.
Well, but see, that's the thing I was going to say, because I can't say that and again, I'm an easy cry, but I can't say crying on airplanes is a thing. But you know what I've done on planes? And I'm curious if you've done this as well. You're flying alone somewhere.
Yeah.
And you strike up a conversation or somebody does with you and it's a stranger.
Yeah.
And if it's a cross-country flight, there's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And over the course of that time, you give them or they give you their entire life story.
Oh, information you wouldn't share with your own family members.
Yeah, and you open up about everything. And then you get off the plane and you end up at baggage claim and you see them and it couldn't be more awkward.
Yeah.
Because now you're on the ground again. You didn't die. You didn't go down with the plane.
Right.
So you're standing there at baggage claim going, oh my God.
You get out of my way. I need to get my bag.
They know I dress up like the queen on the weekend at my house, that type of thing.
Yeah, no, it is a weird, there are weird relationships on airplanes, especially if you do. I mean, sometimes you don't ever talk to the person next to you, which is whatever. But when you do talk, you do wind up sharing things because it's an intimate kind of setting. So you're talking softly and you kind of lean in and you're going, when I watched blah, blah, blah.
Right.
This is what I was feeling. And they say, yeah, I say it's like a conversation you don't have with anybody normally.
Right. By the way, they say that if you're curious about finding a way not to talk to people next to you, the era of ear pods, headphones, all of those things seem to be the number one go-to signal. I'm not interested in a conversation.
Yes.
But a friend of mine a long time ago, and I don't remember who it was, but it's a fairly famous story that he told on talk shows. And I'm trying to remember who the person was. But the story was Steve Martin's on the plane. Mm-hmm. He's sitting next to Steve Martin. He's watching a Steve Martin movie. Doesn't matter which one.
Right.
And he's just waiting for Steve Martin to comment on the fact that he's watching a Steve Martin movie.
Right.
And as they're flying along, he's in the movie and he's laughing and he's having a good time. And he finally can't resist. And he looks at Steve Martin. He goes, "This is so great." And Steve Martin barely looks up, and he wasn't a jerk about it. He just barely looks up and he goes, "Yeah, I've seen it. I didn't like it that much." Which is perfect.
But I like that you used the term jerk since there was the jerk.
Yeah. Which he loved. One of the greats of all time. They don't write him like that anymore.
It's funny because I tend to use ear pods around the house so I don't have to talk to people here. But
yeah, but that's your husband. Please.
I will.
By the way, we have a relationship story coming up as well. But first, let me get to item number 2.
The Deep Six, number 2.
Let's keep talking about money for a second.
Yeah.
In a really tough economic time that is getting worse, frankly, apparently by the day, a good summertime job is a lifeguard.
Sure. Lots of kids, come home from college. It's a perfect thing because you can go, starting in May and wait till, September, and you can be on the beach and you are having fun, meeting everybody, meeting guys, meeting chicks and whatever, and making money while getting a nice tan. Well, obviously, it's a lot more difficult job than that if you have to do ocean rescues and stuff. But I saw this story the other day and it just absolutely amazed me. In Los Angeles, they were talking about the top paid lifeguards on the shore, the Pacific coast there.
These are full-time lifeguards.
Full-time lifeguards. Although, I mean, are they full time really? I mean, are they in January? Are they out there? Is there anybody really? So I guess there are people like
it is a year round job. I do know that, but you told me a salary that I can't even comprehend.
So the highest paid lifeguard last year in LA made $510,283.
I don't even know how that's possible.
Over $500,000. As the lifeguard captain, he out-earned 1,000 of his peers. He got 150,000 in salary, like 29,000 in perks, 85,500 in benefits, and $246,000 in overtime pay. And there were a lot of people that were right beneath him, like making like 475 and all of these other guys. I mean, and they're mostly men that I could see on the list. They tend to be all men that are making those top amounts. And they also said that between the years 2016 and 2021, they had one lifeguard who made almost $1 million only in overtime pay. Forget the perks, forget the salary, just in overtime pay, $1 million.
It is amazing to me. And I thought maybe it was Elon Musk's private lifeguard because he throws money around because he can, or Bezos' private lifeguard. But This is the job you want in LA. If you're trying to become an actor, you do this for a couple of years, you can support it.
Is that amazing?
Really?
I'm floored. Now I look at some of their job titles. Everything from lifeguard captain to ocean lifeguard specialist to, they definitely are guys. These are the people sort of at the top of the food chain among lifeguards.
Right.
But man, like, why would you ever do anything else? And here's the other interesting thing. If you stay on the job for 30 years, you can retire as early as the age of 55 at almost 80% of your pay. So you're making, it's
a lifeguard pension.
Yeah. So say you're making, maybe you're one of the lesser paid guys. You're making $350,000 a year as a lifeguard.
Right.
You're going to make like $300,000 a year in pension for the rest of your life after you retire.
It's amazing. I mean, it really is amazing. Now, I don't want a 55-year-old having to save me. I want the 25-year-old having to save me. But again, if you've done it for 30 years, the 55-year-old's probably in phenomenal shape, right?
He's in phenomenal shape and has the experience to sort of understand everything from ocean currents to how you're going to react if you're drowning. It's not an easy job. I knew a guy who was an ocean lifeguard when I was in college, and it was, I know because he would talk about what an intense job that was. It's not as cute and fun as it looks if you're sitting by the pool watching the kids jump in the pool. That's a different kind of a thing. But
all right, let's go to item number 3. We missed an anniversary while you were in LA. And it's happy anniversary Pornhub.
Oh, how sweet for you to
I've never heard of this place, but it's apparently a site with porn on it.
Yeah.
It was started by the company Brazzers, which is an adult film company.
Brazzers?
Yeah, Brazzers.
Okay.
It's 15 years old. Mm-hmm. It is the 8th most traffic website on the planet. On the planet.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy
But speaking
crap.
of the planet, if you go back and look at the difference that space travel has made and all the innovations that have come from exploring space.
Oh, so you're going to tell us all the innovations that have come from Pornhub?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, the technology of pornography has led to things like Amazon. How? Porn was the first online business where you could order it from your home as you saw fit, and created the direct point of sale purchases of pornography, and that technology spread.
They're innovators. Another one. They're genius innovators.
You and I were just children, but we remember the 80s. and Betamax was the first VCR.
Wow.
Well, Betamax got beat out by VHS.
Right.
And the reason Betamax got beat out by VHS is because the porn industry wasn't able to be taped on Betamax tapes. Betamax tapes Sony Betamax was higher quality, but the tapes were only 60 minutes long. That was the capacity.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
And if you wanted to tape your favorite porn, you needed at least 90 minutes or more. I would argue you need 30, 40 seconds. but you needed 90 minutes or more. So pornography forced the change, and pornography is the reason that Betamax went away and VHS tapes became the thing.
Well, here, I'm going to lift my glass then to them.
Right.
Great.
And it goes on and on. Obviously, terrific acting, great storylines. Those were innovations that came through porn.
Yes. And role models, really, for all of us.
But online sales, the next time you order anything from Amazon, think without Debbie Does Dallas or Rambone, you wouldn't be able to make that sort of order. So
I love those titles.
We had one more item that sort of ties into the Pornhub thing, because you found somebody that I think we need to expose. Again, we don't judge you as you listen to the Deep Six. If you're into freaky stuff, that's your business.
Are you talking to me or everybody?
No, I know all the stuff you're into because
my freaky stuff.
I've seen it on social media, and frankly, you got to check on some of that.
Yeah, this is a 23-year-old woman from Germany who claims to be sexually attracted to airplanes, and she wants to marry her toy Boeing 737. This woman, Sarah, who calls the toy plane Dickie, I'll bet she does, identifies as an objectum sexual, which means she is attracted to inanimate objects sexually. She's also been in love, by the way, with a train in the past, but she was done with that. She kind of fell off that track.
Look what you did there.
Yeah, she said of Dickie, I love everything about him, particularly his face. I didn't know airplanes had a face. Wings and engine, they're so sexy to me. She flies on real 737s as often as possible. She has 50 replica models of the plane. Her desire to marry Dickie, though, unfortunately for her, won't happen anytime soon because, weirdly, in Germany, they don't let you marry toy planes.
Yeah, no, it seems like a good law.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah, it seems like a positive thing. I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know this was a thing that people, had. We've talked about several sexually related items on the Deep Six, and they've disturbed all of me, and it's why I'm spending all my money on
all
therapy.
Of me. Yes, but there are people who are attracted to all kinds of things. People who are physically attracted to ghosts. Obviously now airplanes, other objects. But
I'm just thinking if that woman was on the flight back from LA and saw you crying, she probably thought the plane broke up with you.
That's right.
So
I can't take this.
The Deep Six, number 4.
This one's very interesting to me. I've not heard the term, and I certainly didn't think it would come from President Biden, because I don't think of President Biden as cutting edge.
No.
But tell everybody the term, and maybe you've heard of it. I hadn't.
Fexting. Fexting. This is actually from the First Lady, Jill Biden.
Okay.
She says that she and her husband got into the habit, and I get this. I mean, when you are constantly surrounded by other people and you don't know if at some point somebody's going to pay him to talk. She said she'd get into an argument with her husband, but they couldn't say it out loud. So they would settle arguments over text message. And
because they didn't want the Secret Service to hear it, or it'd be a matter of permanent record.
Exactly. And the press that follows these guys around. And so they would text each other back and forth. And she said it started back when he was vice president, and they first got these protective details. And she just said, it just got to the point where I was afraid that that these stories would get out. And she said at one point she was arguing with her husband via text, and she said to him, she said not long ago she was very upset with him, and she texted him something. And Joe said to her, you realize that could go down in history if somebody gets a hold of this. There will be a record of that because it's been texted. And she said, I'm not even going to tell you what I called him at that moment via text.
So I have certainly had these fights. Everybody who texts has had these fights. I just didn't know there was a name for it.
Yeah, well, there is. And there may be other names for it as well. But yeah, we've all had them. And in fact,
the thing that goes
I may have one in just a few minutes. I'm not sure.
I have an Android phone. And I was and am and will be an Android guy. And I don't think a lot of people know this. Android use around the world far surpasses iPhones. But
Does it really?
Yeah, but my Android doesn't have that lazy thing you iPhone people use where instead of responding, you'll click the emotion tied to it. Loved copy text, liked copy text, and all the other various things that go with it. So I could see this fexting thing going to that. You don't have to worry about emojis for fexting, but maybe they'll create templates for telling the one you love to F off.
Exactly. Not just the little middle finger thing, but actually really telling them to F off. Yeah, I'm wondering though, because there are other people then who have weighed in since this story came out saying, I have another meaning for fexting.
Yeah, right. That's kind of what I thought it was.
It's a little more sexual.
Yeah, but then again, I was all caught up in the Pornhub anniversary.
The Deep Six, number 5.
It's almost breakfast, lunch, or dinner time, depending on where you are and when you're listening.
Food. I love food.
And we have a couple of food items for you. Let me start with a McDonald's menu hack.
Okay.
Which is not all that innovative, but I certainly like the idea of it. They say that the way McDonald's makes their hash browns, you're missing out because you need to order specifically well done. They said, now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have a couple of Nimrods who are cooking at McDonald's who are going to hand back chunks of charcoal to you. But in general, you're going to more often than not get hash browns that are extra crispy. And for whatever reason, the hot oil, the Diet Cokes always taste better at McDonald's. The hot oil at McDonald's is different. I don't know. But the extra crispiness of the hash browns will take you to another place in your fast food life.
I got to tell you, when I go to a restaurant, like I'll go to a restaurant where sometimes those old school steakhouses will have hash browns on the menu.
Yep.
And I always tell them, I want to be able to shatter this when I touch it.
Oh,
I want this so done that no soft potatoes for me. I don't want to bite into a little bit of crisp and a lot of mush. I want pure crisp. So I'm with that. And
this works for you. You're into this.
I'm totally into it.
All right. We have burrito technology news. Let's go live to Patty for this.
Yeah, this is kind of from the why do we need this department? But after I say that, then I think we actually may need it. A team of Johns Hopkins. First of all, Johns Hopkins University, very good, hard to get into school, very expensive. They were aiming to change the way people eat burritos at Johns Hopkins. I thought they were like curing cancer and stuff.
Right. Leading medical minds in the world.
Well, they invented something called edible tape. So they unveiled their tasty tape for the school's engineering design day. And they said that they were inspired by their own experiences with messy foods like burritos, tacos, and wraps. And so what they did is they made some kind of a tape that's food grade, and you can wrap it around the burrito, the taco, the wrap, whatever it is, and it keeps the thing together because there's nothing more frustrating when you're eating. And they can be wonderful, taste wonderful, but you bite in and the thing falls apart in your hand. You don't like that. This is an edible tape. What do you think?
Burrito technology, cutting edge. And you learn about these things here. And boy, this is great news if you're concerned about people driving safely.
And speaking of great food, I got another one.
But now you can actually eat your burrito without having it explode on you and then running into a bus next to you.
But here's another great food item that's just on the horizon. Pepsi has created a new Pepsi-roni pizza with Pepsi-infused pepperoni. What do you think that would taste like?
I have no idea. Why can't you have them separately?
I know. Why did you just have a glass of Pepsi and then you eat your pepperoni?
Pepperoni's pretty strong. Pepsi's a unique taste. I don't know.
They say the Pepsi's signature sweet and citrus zest mixes with the pepperoni and just adds like an extra zing to it. So
I got
whatever. They have been here in New York, and I guess they're going to go into several other markets to do test runs at and not really at like a big known, but at little individual pizza places. So be on the lookout for Pepsi-roni pizza.
Okay. That may be another one of those. Do we need this?
Yes, it is. Totally.
The Deep Six, number 6.
You've inspired me to talk about science as well from the items we've brought up today.
Yay.
Here's a headline from a great site called Mental Floss, where if you're looking to kill time and you can't afford any more online gambling, you may want to go there. Mm-hmm. The headline: Do larger animals take longer to pee?
Oh, well, of course they must because they have like a gallon of pee in them as opposed to a little tiny quart or whatever.
This is the thing that has perplexed mankind since the beginning of time. What is love? And how long does it take big animals to pee?
Yes.
A rhinoceros does obviously have a bigger bladder than a dog or a cat.
Or a mouse.
Yeah, and by volume does pee. But how much time do they spend peeing? A rhino could be busy. A rhino's got things to do, right?
I got to get it out. I got to
be
drop
peeing
it
all
quick.
day.
Yep.
So scientists at Georgia Tech tried to figure this out. To test their hypothesis, they set up high-speed cameras to record zoo animals.
Timed peeing.
Right, pee cameras at the Atlanta Zoo and supplemented that footage with videos from YouTube. Together, they have analyzed the urination of 32 different animals, ranging from mice to jaguars to gorillas to elephants.
The urination.
Are you excited to find out what they found out?
What did they find out?
Specifically, it doesn't matter if you are an animal over 6 pounds or under 6 pounds.
So a house cat.
A house cat versus an elephant. You pee for approximately the same time.
Is it because your urethra is tiny when you're a small? And when you're, if that's the term, I don't know if that's even the right term.
We all struggle with the parts. I thought urethra was an animal. I don't know. But specifically, animals do, for an average of 21 seconds, sometimes as long as 34, but sometimes as few as 8. I think if you're peeing for 8 seconds and you're in the wild, it's because somebody's coming up behind you.
Yeah, you got to get out of here.
Yeah, but according to the National Academy of Sciences, considering that an elephant's bladder is 18 liters, that's 3,600 times larger in volume than a cat's bladder. Yet the cat and the elephant could be next to each other at the urinal, and they're both washing their hands at the same time. All right, maybe
that's a little shorter. Do they hit that little blue thing that's in your urinals? I don't know.
Yeah, they do love the urinal cakes for sure.
This is what I love here. What we learn on this show is just absolutely, it's mind-boggling even to us. We learn as we speak.
Yeah, and it's important to bring this to you. So you're not getting it from other podcasts up and down the podcast dial.
God knows.
So, that's, and by the way, the Gracie Awards have never been more proud than after hearing this item.
She's talking about animal pee again.
I'm glad you already got the trophy. They may try to take it back.
Right. No. By the way, when I got the trophy, I made the unfortunate decision to say to the woman that handed it to me, "Oh my gosh, this would make an incredible murder weapon." This thing is like 5 pounds with a very sharp top on it. And it just looks like something you could hold on to and just go wham and just split a head in half.
And that's why your husband hasn't been home since the trip.
What husband? I've never been married.
Believe me, I'll testify on your behalf.
Thank you, honey.
It is the Deep Six. That's Patty Steele in New York. I'm Steve Cochran in Chicago. We thank you for listening. Again, Patty, what is it? It's 2 friends.
6 stories. Go ahead.
About 35 minutes.
Yes. And you, because we love you.
And we thank you for listening.
Yes.
Thanks for listening. The Deep Six. Subscribe, rate, follow, or review at pattysteele.com or cochranshow.com.
David Hochberg and Team Hochberg are at it again with something that amounts to perks at work. It's an affinity program, meaning a benefit program for your employees. I think the best person to describe this would be David Hochberg, who tells us what, in fact, it is.
A real estate package to the business, to the employees of those businesses. If they're looking to refinance, you get a deep discount. If you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, we've partnered with realtors throughout the United States and title companies throughout the United States to offer substantial discounts. So we're able to offer your employees, if you're a company owner or a benefits manager or HR manager, huge discounts on refinancing and huge discounts if your employees are buying or selling a home.
So here's the deal. You would actually have something that's not going to cost you any money as a company, presented as a benefit to your employees, which can mean they're going to lower their purchase price. Their appraisal value is going to be benefited by this. You get an appraisal credit, a realtor credit, a lender credit, a title credit. It all adds up to savings and happier employees. How do you get more information? Go to 855-56-DAVID. That's the phone number. Call up, leave a message, ask your questions, or go to 56david.com and drop David Hochberg an email. Another great idea from Team Hochberg and David Hochberg at 855-56-DAVID or 56david.com. Let's go, company benefits managers. Let's do something for you and your people. Thanks as always to you and to my friend Patty Steele and to Ross Cochran, executive producer of everything we do here on the Live from My Office family of programs. Okay, before we go, we haven't taken a call from this man in quite some time, but here he is, former president number 45, Donald Trump. Hello again, sir.
Yes, hello, Cochran. It's great to talk to me again.
Yeah.
It really is. Huge spike in listenership right at this very minute, too. Go figure. Live from my office. Huge listenership, relatively speaking, of course. I mean, your podcast isn't exactly number one in the Apple Store, okay?
Okay, well, let's move to this, former President Trump. I wanted to ask you about the gubernatorial election they had down in Georgia and wanted to offer our condolences. Your candidate, David Perdue, got thumped by Brian Kemp, who is endorsed by your new arch rival, Mike Pence.
Now, why would you choose to kick off the interview by bringing that stupid election up and bum me out, Steve? Okay? For crying out loud, you had to bring it up that the dorky-looking old weak loser that I got behind couldn't even win a simple governor's race. Simple governor's race down in Dukes of Hazzardville. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Well, snap out of it, sir. Snap out of it. But with all due respect, Kemp did win in a landslide. And we're on the subject of that for a second here because on some level, Mike Pence picking that winner, that's got to annoy the hell out of you.
Okay, tread lightly, Cochran. Okay? No follow-up gotchas. Okay, that's the rule today. As far as that traitor Pence is concerned, yeah, it ticks me off. Ticks me off bigly. Now I have to hear all the crap about how the former leader of the free world who was unfairly beaten in 2020 got beat again, only this time by his completely disloyal, disgraceful ex-VP. You know who I'm talking about. Jesus' favorite albino airline pilot, the great way too white hope, Mike Pence. I'll tell you, I haven't been this disappointed by someone I've said a lot of good things about since my daughter Ivanka married that schmuck Jared. I really haven't.
Well, sir, your former White House counselor, Kellyanne Conway, has responded to criticism, I guess, from you when she put her book out. And the past few days, as when we're taping this, she was doing an interview and she said, you were a great girl boss. What does that mean, a great girl boss?
What, are you kidding me? I'm a great girl boss. The best girl boss ever. I'm great at bossing around girls, telling them they need to smile more or wear more makeup or take off their clothes. Girls love hearing that from their boss. Hashtag girl boss.
I see. Okay.
Hashtag great girl boss.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, truth be told, Cochran, I know probably better than anyone in the history of business, the history of bosses, okay, how to handle a woman. I know better than anyone. No, really, I'm a shining example of how to keep these people known as women motivated, inspired, believing that their ideas and suggestions are actually being paid attention to.
Known as. Never mind. All right, you do have that magic touch. You do. Oh,
of course I do.
Yes.
And Kellyanne, granted, she's got a lot of faults, but Kellyanne knows this from personal experience. I always went the extra mile with Kellyanne to acknowledge and praise her whenever she did something really well. And, she'll even tell you this. I'm the boss who didn't just pat her on the head and say, good girl. I went the extra mile and I said, great girl. That's my great girl. Yes, you are.
Sir, I hate to do this in the middle of our conversation, but I'm told we had another call coming in.
What are you talking about, guys?
Ladies and gentlemen, courtesy of the Live from My Office Rolodex, we're pleased to welcome Johnny Depp to the program just off his big court win. Mr. Depp, welcome. How are you, sir?
Hello, Steve. I'm doing actually quite well. And before I get to anything else, I just want to take a second to thank all my wonderful female fans who've shown up at my trial each and every day. I mean, they were They were so loyal, and their support means the world to me. And I love you all, and I mean that in a platonic way. But I do have a really, really bad drinking problem. So hey, you never know. You know what I mean?
Well, Johnny,
I know exactly what Johnny means.
Yes, Mr. Trump, if you could just hold for a second.
I've dealt with horrible women in court too, and I just want to say I support Johnny 100%. This is great.
Okay.
This is a great comeuppance.
All right,
Is that what you?
Yes, Johnny.
Excuse me. Who's that? Was that Donald Trump on the line?
Look, Johnny, the jury's awarding you $15 million after finding Amber Heard liable for defamation. You must be quite pleased.
Yes, I'm so incredibly happy. As you can tell by the tone of my voice,
sure.
I'm almost nodding into a coma with sheer joy.
No, I bet it hasn't even sunk in yet. Your ex-wife owing you all that cash.
I feel this is shown in a way. This is shown. Well, to be sure, it's a kind of resolution to what was the question?
Well, I was just saying you have to be pleased with the outcome of the trial.
Oh yes, of course. It's mind blowing. But as everyone knows, I'm an incredibly nice guy.
That's funny. I'm a nice guy too. I'm a nice guy, Johnny.
Yeah,
I know you are, sir.
President, stand by.
I have offered to use my influence to help Amber get some great jobs so she can pay all of that money back. Seriously, I'm actually interested in getting paid that money in my lifetime. So I was planning on calling in a few favors and getting Ms. Heard connected with some very successful prescription drug dealers I know. I think she would be a huge success in that industry. Moving a lot of volume with oxys and perks and all of that.
Yeah, that was all out loud, sir. But, you are thinking of others, Johnny Depp. What are you going to do with the extra free time that you have now with no movies lined up?
You could come down to Mar-a-Lago, Johnny. I got a tea time waiting for you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Well, for one thing, I finally have time for a proper day's rest. I enjoy a good night's sleep like anyone else, sure, but there's nothing quite like a light drug-induced coma to move the day along.
Okay, if you say so.
And I might take some courses on first aid. I never again want to be in a position where I've severed a finger or limb and not know how to reattach it.
Uh-huh.
I also might spend some time on Tinder. I mean, why meet a gold-digging future ex-wife the old-fashioned way when you can do it in half the time using an app?
Well, I see how you're thinking there, though I don't recommend it for others.
So mail-order bride catalogs are a good way to go, Johnny. I will tell you. Eastern European women, they're a little, they talk back, but they're nice. They're nice.
Okay. All right.
What is he talking about? I'm optimistic for the future, though, Steve. I'm possibly even excited, The future holds many possibilities, including new film roles, endorsements, and finding a doctor to explain why I talk like this, even though I'm from Kentucky.
That would be a great mystery if we could clear that up. So backing up just a bit, your ex-wife gave hours of not very nice testimony about you. Was that difficult to sit through? I mean, it's been 7 weeks.
Oh, yes. It was painful. And speaking of frightening women, my former lover, Ellen Barkin, testified against me as well. Did you see that?
I did not.
She actually gave her testimony on video, and with all the plastic surgery she has had and the short white hair, just over the ear, kind of a mop top. The judge actually thought I was dating an Andy Warhol impersonator.
Again, that was out loud.
Warhol impersonator. No, that's good, Johnny. I'm going to use that next time I DJ Mar-a-Lago Sunday brunch. That's rich.
Former President Trump, I didn't know you were doing that, but we'll get back to you in a minute. Johnny Depp on the line with us. What has been the most difficult, maybe challenging part of dealing with a trial for you personally?
Well, this trial has presented so many arduous obstacles. And, reliving a painful marriage, hearing countless lies told about me in public, being away from my impressive collection of vintage scarves. They're back in L.A. stress and anxiety about how to wear my hair in court? Is it up in a bun day? Is it down, ponytail, product, no product? Also, while I'm many miles away from home, not knowing if my assistant is properly washing and storing my very impressive collection of vintage scarves.
Right.
Did I mention the scarves?
You may
already?
have. Yeah, you may have.
It's been a rough time, Steve.
I want to thank you, Johnny Depp. Best of luck. And former President Trump, thank you for calling in as well.
You bet. And I'm a big fan of Johnny. And you know what? I know when I see a winner. And Johnny Depp is a huge winner this week. As you know, I'm very good at picking winners. And I predicted this would be the outcome of the trial.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes, thank you, sir. Where's my drink? Oh, I'm holding
30 years plus on the airwaves, you have turned your dial to me. Now you're tuned into my podcast. It's live from my office, Steve. From Ithaca, New York, to Carolina South, W. Cochran Steve. From Minneapolis and then Chicago twice, top-rated shows achieved. Sit back, relax, and now listen to my show. When or wherever you are, 'cause you're on the go. A-list celebs with some laughs and great info. Live from my office, the Steve Cochran Podcast Show. Yeah. No better place to be. Yeah. Subscribe and like for free. Yeah. Live from my office, Steve. So glad you're with me. It's live from my office, Steve.
Thank you for listening to Live from My Office, a service of Monkey Run Productions. All rights reserved. The podcast is hosted by Steve Cochran, and it's mixed, edited, and produced by me, Ross Cochran. Steve is available for corporate speaking gigs. He would love to MC your event, and occasionally, he's funny. Thank you for listening. Head to cochranshow.com for more.